what I want to deliver today, this is my goal, my intention in my deliverables, to just share with you the knowledge that you are not alone in your journey of transitioning, whether you're moving from changing careers or going from career to entrepreneurship or going through some type of personal change in your life. We are never alone. I want to impart confidence in someone that's ready to start their journey of transitioning to entrepreneurship or career change, offer encouragement and answer any questions that you may have. So quick poll, if you can type in the chat, what are some of the questions that you want answered today? And I will leave 30 seconds for you to think about it. Some may have thought about this when you signed up, a question that you wanted answered, or need to think about it. So I will be quiet for 30 seconds and allow you to type into the chat box. Hi, Todd, I see your question. And thank you for joining. I have not seen or talked to you in a long time. This whole COVID-19 has just kind of put us in our own boxes more than we normally are. So
yeah, good morning. I really appreciate the invite. Yeah, unfortunately, we were doing well up until COVID. So thank you for the invite. I'm glad to light this fire again.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I hope you will find some value in this. So thanks for joining. And we'll get to some of these questions. So my goal in asking this question up front is so that when we get to the question and answer, I want to make sure that I answer any questions that you have coming into the room today and any other questions you may think of along the way. All right. So I want to share with you some of my pain points that I had before I made the transition. So if you want to share or feel free to share some of your pain points you have where you are right now in your process in the chat box, go ahead. But some of mine, I wanted to have more autonomy in my work. In the role, my most recent role in corporate America, I had acquired a new boss who was very good at micromanaging. And I wanted more respect for my time and my talent. I didn't like to be micromanaged. I had been in my fields for almost 20 years. I knew what I was doing. I wanted more flexibility with my time. I wanted the ability to take a vacation without the vacation tax, right? Anyone knows what that vacation tax is? Give me a thumbs up on your screen if you do. I used that word the other day and someone was like, what is that? So it is the work you have to do ahead of time to prepare for vacation. And then the work you have to do when you get back from vacation to dig out of your emails and get back to work, right? That vacation tax. It almost takes away from that relaxation you enjoyed being away from work and having that break. So I wanted to get away from that. I wanted to have more quality time with my family and my kids. I have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old now, which they're really young and still need attention, right? Because of COVID, I started homeschooling full time. So I'm working a full-time job, which really was like 2 jobs. I'm in property management, and I also did all of the project management for construction at the building, new construction, capital improvement, tenant improvement, all of that. That was 100% under my umbrella. I wanted to create something that I could pass down to my kids. I wanted to also operate in my purpose and do something greater than what I was doing. And more importantly, I wanted to have more control over my income. And let's be honest, that 2 to 3% increase that you get every year does not go very far. And the possibility of bonus, because every employer will tell you, bonus is not guaranteed, right? It's something that's possible. You get it, great. If you don't, something happens in the economy, we've decided not to give bonuses this year. If you've been in your career or worked long enough in a bonus structure, you've probably hit one of those where it was, we're not going to be giving bonus this year. Probably back in 2008 or recently during the pandemic. But those were some of my pain points that really propelled me towards thinking of transitioning into entrepreneurship and having more control over my income, my time, my talent, and how I use it. And here are some of the rewards after I transitioned from corporate America into entrepreneurship. I have more quality time with my kids. I'm homeschooling full time, and I can see the difference it's making in them as individuals, as they're developing, and in their academics. Within 90 days of transitioning from corporate America, I took 5 vacations without that vacation tax. I took my kids on their first international trip during COVID. My husband and I are vaccinated, and we had a wonderful time. 2 weeks in South America, 1 week in Miami, on and on. But being able to do that guilt-free without having to ask for a vacation, wait for it to be approved, explain why you need to be gone for so long, right? I acquired 4 paid clients within my first 90 days. I added to my personal listings. I managed short-term rentals here in the Carolinas, in North Carolina, Charlotte, Concord, and the surrounding cities. And I had 7 additional opportunities in the pipeline within 30 days of really going into this full time. I had the ability to create the life I wanted on my terms without any boundaries. And for my clients that I acquired, one of them was able to relocate to Michigan from the Carolinas to start a new adventure and have someone that is capable, reliable, knowledgeable, handle the management of their property. Another one, I was able to give them the confidence to start their own exit strategy from corporate America. And then just overall support and that financial stability for my clients, which is nothing to sneeze about. That's a great benefit to them. So starting with your transition all starts in the mind, right? You have to make a decision. You have to get to the point of, this is what I want to do. This is where I can see myself going. For me, being in a work environment where I was miserable, where nothing I did was suddenly, everything I did was wrong and not appreciated, and just wanting it done a different way. You know, it was a tomato kind of situation. Not that it's wrong, it's just, I prefer you to do it this way. And not having that autonomy just really was the thing to push me into changing my mindset, taking a hard look at my life, where I am, what I'm doing, what I want to do with my life, and starting that mindset shift. I got to the point where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and that was it. And I want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not for everyone. It's not a hobby. You need to find something that you go into businesses with that is going to be sustainable. Most people that go into business isn't going into business for a year or 2. This is for a while, right? So we want to make sure that we do our homework, we prepare ourselves mentally first, and we get ready for that shift. And I want to share this acronym for shift that I have been using. And I like it because, you know, when your mindset shifts, that's when your money is going to shift. You have to start thinking differently, and in order to move differently. So this acronym S means seeing the situation, right? Examining where you are, where you want to go, and looking at it from all sides. The advantages, the disadvantages, the black, white, and the gray area, especially the gray area. And H is hope. You know, what are your expectations? What do you hope to achieve? I, are you in it? Are you ready? Right? Are you ready? And that's a real question, because you want to make sure that you are preparing yourself, setting a stable enough foundation so that when you step out, you are ready for everything that comes with being in that valley of transition, transitioning from that employee mindset to that entrepreneurial mindset. And F is focus. Where are you going to put your emphasis? So for me, I found that I had so many things of interest to me. I had so many things that I could do. I could have gone into project management, property management, event planning, but you have to decide where you're going to put your focus. There's only so many hours in the day. And you need to also make sure that you're managing not only your time and resources, but your energy. We put a lot of energy into things that we do. If you have a family, your family takes some of your energy. You personally, as an individual, you have to focus on you, and then your emphasis on this business. 90% of the time when people are shifting from a career in corporate America into entrepreneurship, you're going to be balancing both of those for a while before you make that transition. So managing your energy and being clear on what your focus and your emphasis is going to be on is going to be key. And T, I think, is, all of these are my favorite, but T really is a favorite of mine, truth. What is your truth? What is your truth? What are you telling yourself? Right? We, over the course of our lives, a lot of information has been poured into us that may not be true about who we are and what our true potential is. And part of this truth, part of the shift is telling yourself, or having those conversations again, those self-talk, having some positive self-talk to encourage yourself and build up and retrain some of those negative things that have been told. For some of us, we may not have, in growing up, we may not have been exposed to people in our family or our circle that have been in business for themselves, right? So this is a brand new thing that we're taking on. We have no frame of reference or someone that we can say, hey, when you were starting your business, how did you da 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 da, whatever your question is. And so we need to build up that truth and retell ourselves those truths about ourselves. You are great at this. You have, and focus on the facts, right? You in your career, I'm sure, have had and received accolades for X, Y, and Z. Whether you are, for example, great at organizing things, you are a great planner. When you're shifting into entrepreneurship, you are wearing all the hats. You are the PR person, the marketing person, the social media manager, the admin person, you are the financial person, you're wearing all of that for a time. There will come a time when you can outsource and share some of the load, but the shift is something that happens throughout that journey of transitioning. And even once you transition fully into entrepreneurship, you're also still going to be growing mentally and recreating some of the things that you've been exposed to or taken as the norm. Tools and resources. So I really want to focus on this for a minute. When we're talking about shifting mindset, mental illness and mental is real. It's that heaviness, that burden to be great, to please is there, absolutely there. For me, when I was going through this transition, I engaged with a therapist for the first time in my life because when I was in the employee space, before I had that mind shift of this is what I'm going to do, I need to change, I'm going to work for myself, I started feeling like the tools I was using, my coping mechanisms, weren't working anymore because of the intense amount of stress with going through a pandemic, dealing with my job, my boss, homeschooling for the first time, full time while working and navigating all of this. Something isn't right. And for me, going to a therapist really emphasized, like, you just have a lot on your plate. You have the tools and they are working, but you need to take smaller bites and give yourself grace. So whether that's going to be a therapist for you, a coach, a mentor, depending on your industry that you're going into, you may need a mentor or a coach. Make sure you take the time to think about those and invest in yourself in this way. If you are using the wrong tool for the job, you may get the job done. Let's say, for example, you don't engage with a mentor, a coach, or a therapist. You say, I'm a DIY person, I can do it. I'll take the time, I'll do it myself. You may get there. You will get there probably, right? But then you want to think about, what will the result be if I don't use the right tools along the way? How many mistakes will I make and have to correct later? Is it going to be a sustainable thing, a sustainable product, a sustainable business if I don't use the right tools? Can I recreate it? Right? So those are all things we want to think about. How's everyone doing? I just want to do a quick check. Give me a thumbs up if you guys are still with me, if this is making sense, if you're getting some value. I see your wave, Julie. Thanks for the thumbs up, Todd. Larissa, thanks for the thumbs up. All right. So one of the tools I want to give out here, there is a great organization called SCORE. It's www.score.org. They offer mentorship for all genres of businesses, and it's free. Thank you for putting that in the chat box, Crystal. They are a national organization. They're also affiliated with the Small Business Association. So you can also go to sba.gov. Both of these resources, SCORE and SBA, have free workshops, tons of free workshops that you can go and be a part of and learn as you go through your transition journey. And SCORE is really instrumental because, like I mentioned, they have the mentorship and it's free. With SCORE, these are C-level executives, retired business owners that go back and volunteer their time to help other small business owners and entrepreneurs that are on their journey. So you can get help with anything from marketing, creating a marketing plan or what to do, things like that, as an example. So part of that shift, right, is doing a self-assessment. So my self-assessment started here. What are my skills? And then I went to, what am I good at? So these are my skills, and what am I good at in terms of the work that I've done, my career so far? I've done a few things. What am I good at? And then I broke it down here, property management, project management, other hosting, and then what can I do and what should I do? Because what I can do and what I should do aren't necessarily the same thing, and what I want to do, right? And then doing your research at this point. Once you get to this point of these are my skill sets. This is what I'm good at. Now, what do I want to do with this? How can I package this into a sustainable business that I can get the rewards that I want to get? I want to have the life that I want to have and make it sustainable and financially, emotionally, all of those things. And let's be honest, there are going to be obstacles on this journey. I had quite a few. My biggest one for me personally was visibility. working in property management and then segueing into a career, an entrepreneurial venture that is surrounding property management, albeit in a different aspect, was really stressful for me because I was concerned about conflict of interest for my employer, from my employer. Also want to point out, I was doing this during a pandemic where people were working from home. I was homeschooling, so I worked from home 2 days a week. I was in the office 3 days a week. Those 2 days I was homeschooling full time, and homeschool also happened on the weekends. But my concern was, even though I am doing my job, even more so because I know what I have going on in the background, I was concerned that my employer will not see it that way. And they will conclude that I am taking away from the company while I'm working from home to do my own business. So that was a big fear of mine. So that affected how I showed up in a visibility capacity. So any business, people need to know that you're in business in order for you to get business. So if you are not visible and you're not putting your product out there, it's hard for you to get business. So that visibility was huge. I chose not to advertise on social media or broadcast on LinkedIn and Instagram and things like that. I actually didn't have an Instagram account until I fully transitioned to entrepreneurship. And for you, your obstacles may be different, right? But there will be obstacles. And the key here is to be prepared to see them for what they are. That we coming back to that truth part of that SHIFT acronym, right? See them for what they are, examine all the sides, and then work through it, develop a plan to work through it. So what is it really like to be in the Valley of Transition? What are some of the experiences, the feelings, the emotions, what is it like, right? We all have this thing called life. And I put this picture here. I actually pulled it from an article I read on LinkedIn. But I loved that it had this self-care circle in it. So I pulled it here for this presentation. But in our life, we have work, our job, our hobbies, our family, our friends, and we have to make sure that there's self-care in there. But being in the Valley of Transition, there's fear. I was going from a career, a paid job with benefits, coworkers, structure, right? There's clear, this is what you should do. These are the rules of the game. And going to entrepreneurship, where I am going to be creating my income from the ground up, right? So there's doubt. Can I really do this? There's the stress of managing your job, your side hustle, building a business. But there's also those aha moments, right? Where things click and you're like, yes, this is why I'm doing it. This is why I need to do this. And then you're also going to have small wins along the way. So make sure that you pay attention to that and celebrate the small wins, not just with yourself, but celebrate with your family and your close circle that know that you're going through this transition. One, it gets buy-in from them, from your community. And it's going to take a strength like no other. You are going to have to sometimes go alone, walk this alone. Not everyone in your circle is going to be on board 100%. And it's okay. Your purpose in life, the purpose you were created for, is only for you. You're the only person that can walk that. You're the only person that will truly know what that feels like, what that calling is. And you will have to walk sometimes alone. And once you get the proof, people start seeing that. That's why you share those small wins along the way to encourage others, because you will need support. You don't want to alienate your circle, because you will need that support, but you need to get to a point where it's strong enough that you can walk this by yourself. All right, so I would like to do a quick poll right here and get some of your feedback here real quick, if that's okay. And while I'm pulling that up, just want to reiterate that shift, right? That acronym that we went over earlier. And let me see, Crystal, can you launch the poll? Because I think you are the host right now. And while you're doing that, I want to take a look at some. All right, the poll just came up. It's just 4 questions. If you guys can answer that real quick. You might need to scroll down to see the 4th question on it. And once you hit yes or no on those, you just hit submit. Larissa said she's not seeing it. It did show up on my screen though, Crystal.
Larissa, if you are on a mobile device, you may need to either scroll to the right, left, up, or down to see it. Are you on a mobile device by chance?
No, I'm actually on my PC. I'm on my work computer, so unless we have a block or something, no worries. I will figure it out. And if anybody else is having issues, that would be phenomenal if y'all would share that.
Well, what I can do in the meantime for you, Larissa, is I can copy and paste the questions in the chat directly to you. They're just yes or no questions. And once you reply directly to me, I'll take note of the answer. Sound good?
Sure, as long as it's not in the way.
Not at all.
Awesome. All right, thank you guys. Did anyone else not get the poll pop up on their screen? If you didn't, Crystal is putting it into the chat box, so feel free to go there and answer the questions as well.
Yeah, so I'll put all of the questions in the chat box. Feel free to send it directly to me if you'd like to keep your answers private. Other than that, you can feel free to answer it in the group chat if you wish.
Awesome. So some takeaways for today. I want you to know that you need support. It's important to have an accountability partner as you're going through this. It's important to do some self-care as you're going through this transition process into an entrepreneurial space. That self-care may look like doing meditating for 10 minutes every day, if that's your thing, yoga, taking a yoga class, whatever it is that you need to do to step away from life for a second, quiet your mind, and just think. You will need structure. You'll need a schedule. Put yourself on a schedule. And you will need to have faith in yourself, in your abilities to make this thing happen. Trust the research that you have done on your venture that you're entering into, your entrepreneurship venture. 2 of the things that helped me the most during this transition, being in the Valley, in the process of transitioning, was having a therapist. One is that gave me support and accountability, right? And it was also self-care at the same time. And then the second thing was me setting a date. You know, when you set that date, it becomes real. I'm transitioning on April 2021 from corporate America into entrepreneurship. And that tapped into my project management expertise inside of me. Now I have a date on the calendar. What are I have a deliverable, right? So now I have to deliver on that. It's showing up on my screen. And that makes it real. Once you set that date, now this becomes really real. What do I need to do to make this date happen? How do I plan? How do I prepare? How do I make this happen? So that is and was and will continue to be pivotal. Even in my business today, I continue to set 30-day goals, 90-day goals. This is what I'm working on this quarter. And you have to project out what's going to happen. How's everyone doing? So good? All right, so let's get to some of your questions, right? This is supposed to share my journey and answer some of your questions that you have about transitioning into entrepreneurship or any type of change. So I think there were some questions that we had put in the chat box earlier. So let's see.
Yes, the first question we have is from Todd. And that question is, how did you know when the time was right to start this journey?
Great question. So for me, when I got to the point of being so sick and tired and overwhelmed with the unhappiness in my current position, I started doing that self-assessment I talked about. What do I want out of life? What do I want it to look like? So that was the start, right? And that's that mental preparedness is step one, where you start having those self-reflection of where your life is, where you want it to go, et cetera. And that's the starting point for me. And that's what I would encourage people to do. Just do a self-assessment of where you want to be. Did that answer your question, Todd? Give me a thumbs up. If I need to elaborate more, I will, or you can jump on and ask a follow-up.
Yeah, no, I kind of wanted to hear your personal journey. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, so the next question we have here is from Larissa. Should I leave my 9-to-5 when I match, double, triple, etc., my full-time income with the asset I've been building outside of it? AKA, what's the wisest income level to make the leap?
So this question, thanks for that question, Larissa. First of all, that's a great question. Finance is it can be an obstacle. I will say that. In thinking of transitioning from a steady paycheck that comes every week, every 2 weeks, every month, however you get paid, to now I don't know when that check is going to come, when that money is going to hit my bank account. For everyone, it's going to be different. I would say take a look at what your expenses are right now. If your expenses are per month, $5,000 per month, right? You need to understand what your current financial position is. What are my expenses? What do I need to live? What are the things I do not want to sacrifice in my life, right? If I am a person that likes to golf is a very expensive game. You want to make sure that if you're transitioning and golf is part of your non-negotiable to keep in, then you have to budget to keep those things in. Golf could be the place where you actually get clients, right? It could be, even though it's an expensive hobby or sport, it could be something that brings in clients for your business. So the first thing to do is a financial self-assessment of where you are, what your expenses are, and get back to that SHIFT acronym, that truth, right? What do I need? What do I want? What is non-negotiable in my life right now? And then come up with that number. And then the second part is saving towards that. And while you're building your business, you're going to do your own research on, first of all, is there a need for what I'm doing? Is this a hobby, or is this a sustainable business that I can build? You're going to do market research to find out, where your clients will come from, how you need to reach them, right? You're going to do a marketing plan. You're going to develop a marketing strategy for that. What is the cost of that marketing plan and strategy, right? So you have the personal finance side, and then simultaneously you're going to look at this business that you're building. What are the finances I need for this? So for me, I'm going to take it in. For me, I was going from property management, project management, and I decided that real estate is the vehicle I'm going to use to transition myself to entrepreneurship. Not necessarily the only thing I will do in the entrepreneurial lane, but that's the vehicle that's going to transition me. So I looked at, okay, I have some property. I want to get into the short-term rental space. How many properties do I need to have under my management to cover these expenses we just did, right? That if your number is 5,000 a month, how many properties do I need to have under my management to hit this, to cover my expenses? So you have to do that financial homework. And like I said, it's going to be different for everyone. I will also say you should have an emergency fund built up before you transition, because there are always going to be those miscellaneous expenses that come up. So make sure you have at least a 6-month emergency fund. So if your living expenses are 3 times a month, and make sure that you're including your non-negotiable in that minimum, right? Things that you have to have. Then 3,000 times 6 months, that's what you should have in your emergency fund. And then you build, I built my business to the point where it was replacing that minimum that I was bringing in from my job. So if I was making 4,000 a month, I was bringing in 4,000 a month. I wanted my business to get to the point where it was bringing in 4,000 a month at the minimum. And the way I looked at it is, once I transition and I'm able to full-time 100% focus on this, then I can grow it. But for now, I want to just cover this amount. That's the break even. Does that answer your question, Larissa? You're on mute. If you're talking, we can't hear you. Are you still with us? Oh, she typed
Yes,
into the group.
it makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone else have a question surrounding that?
If not, we have a couple more questions in the chat, and
Okay.
I'll invite you to, as I ask your question, in case there's something you want to elaborate on, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. So our next question is from Julie, and that is a great question. How did you overcome your fear of the unknown?
Oh my goodness, that is a great question. Thank you so much, Ms. Julie, for asking that. And thank you for being here. So good to see your face. So good to see everyone. How did you overcome your fear of the unknown? So, I think we all, going through this pandemic, we all dealt with a lot of unknown, right? The whole world was in a state of, I don't know, what is this virus going to do? So, and in this valley, going through the unknown of what's going on in the world, and then the unknown of how is this business going to run and be and function and feel once I leave, right? That's huge. So for me, when I started this journey, it started with the whole mindset towards the end of 2019. That's when my new boss started. She started on my birthday, actually, September 9th, 2019, one of the worst days of my life. but that was the catalyst to drive me to change and to take on this journey. So it was a blessing in disguise. I think sometimes when God wants to move you into something different, he has to take away something. And if you are too comfortable in your place or where you are, it's hard for him to work and move you. So when I entered 2021, my strategy was faith forward in 2021. And I got that slogan from 2020, New Year's sermon at the Park Church, Pastor Alexander. Everyone's going into 2020, and the 2020 vision was his sermon. And so when I got to the point of thinking this is going to be my next step, my slogan was faith forward in 2021. So I was going to step out in faith and work the process. I know that, and let me back up a little bit. At the time I was 38, 39, I had decided and said out loud to my husband, when I'm 40, for some reason, I thought that 40 was the halfway point of my life. But I said at 40 and over, I want to own my own business. I want to work for myself. I had put that out in the universe. I felt that in my soul, and I put it out into the universe that the next half of my life, this first 40, I'm working, I'm building, I'm growing in my career and getting a lot of exposure, experience, skills, building my network and all of that. When I'm 40 and beyond, I want to work for myself. I want to take all of this that I've amassed here and package it and do me, really. So that seed was planted a while ago. It just never was watered. And it was never nurtured, and it was never developed until I got to the point where someone else was making my life miserable. So that's how I worked on my fear of the unknown. I stepped forward in faith. I said faith forward in 2021, and then I started planning. And I relied on my research, and I took a deep look at my life and what I wanted, and I felt truly that my purpose was to be in business and be an entrepreneur. And I was just finding that thing that I can use to transition.
Julie, do you have any follow-up questions or thoughts?
Awesome.
Oh, I think you're speaking, but we can't hear you.
Oh, she said no. She shook her head. Awesome. Any other questions in the chat? How are we doing on time? Let me check my phone. Oh.
Our next and so far last question, although I know someone else just joined the waiting, just joined. So to anyone who just joined, if you have a question about the transition process, feel free to type it in the chat. I'm going to read this last one, and then everyone can unmute, I suppose. And if you have a question, we can take it that way. So the next question is from Brenda. When planning to achieve the CEO goal, what would you recommend to have in reserves before taking that step?
Hey, Brenda, welcome, welcome, welcome. And thanks for that question. In reserves, I would say at least 6 months of expenses. Take a good hard look at what it is you need and your non-negotiables as well, not just your utilities and rent and all of that. Include your non-negotiables, because sometimes that non-negotiable thing could be your self-care item, which is something that's truly, truly needed during this process. So like we talked about earlier, that mental health is really key, that we stay focused and stay sharp and take care of ourselves. Because going through this journey, it's not easy, and it's not for everyone. But it's tough. And sometimes, like we mentioned earlier, sometimes you have to do it alone. Sometimes you have to walk by yourself, right? So make sure that you know your numbers, Make sure you know what your minimum is, what your non-negotiable is, put that all together and at least have that in reserve. And then most of the time you are working your side business while you're doing your main business. So you're going to start getting some income from your side business as well. So be strategic on how you allocate those funds, and are you going to put 100% of it back into the business? Are you putting 10% back in and saving 10%? So you need to come up with a clear strategy plan for that. So did that answer your question, Brenda?
Yes, hi. Hi, Jannelle. Hi, ladies. It did, thank you. It's just for me, and I'm a big saver, and for me, it's all about security, because I've been wanting to start my own business for a while, and the one fear I have is just security, and failing at it. And like, okay, well, what if this business fails? Then I put whatever I had into it, still stuck in the corporate America world. Because I understand the corporate America world it can be very draining on one, mentally, physically, like all of the above. So for me, it's just really all about security. And I know you answered the question about what made you just step out and do it. And I definitely envy you for that. I'm just praying to God that one day I will have the strength and motivation like you did to actually just do it. Because we all know faith can move mountains. So, it's just the fact of just taking that step and getting out there to do it. So I really appreciate you also taking the time to just encourage ladies like us, and to just give us the motivation that we need and the help that we need, and let us know that it can definitely happen if we just pretty much step out there.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Brenda. That is so real, right? That fear is so real. But I want to share something. The acronym for fear that I use is false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. Use that as your acronym for fear to encourage yourself on this journey. And you are absolutely right. Corporate America, a steady job it is a blanket of security, right? You have insurance. If you get sick, you're like, I have a sick day. If I need to go to the hospital, insurance covers it. One of the reasons people go into debt in this country is medical bills. If you have insurance, that takes care of 70% of that cost when you have to call a doctor or go to the ER. That is a huge, huge security, right? So that's nothing to blink on. That security is real. That steady paycheck. So know that you are not going to lose your house, right? Food, clothing, and shelter, those are basic human needs, right? If you don't have that security to know that you can still have a place to stay, food to eat, and clothing on your body when it's cold or hot, appropriately dressed, that is real. It is real, but it is also doable. It's also doable. Don't let the false evidence appearing real keep you from stepping out in faith. You need to have faith over fear. And the way you do that is by having a plan. If you have a plan, a solid plan, and you just work that plan, you can get there. You can absolutely get there. And you do it a little bit at a time. This transition doesn't need to happen in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. It can take you a year, and that's okay. It can take you 2 years, and that's also okay. It's like going to college. There's this 4-year program. Some of us graduate in 3, some in 4, some in 5, some in 6, but you still graduate. You still got to the finish line and you get your degree, right? It's not about how long. Use that security blanket while you're working your plan. And along the way, once you start, I will say this, once you start, you will see the small wins, and those aha moments will help build your confidence as well. So start with the plan and put together a plan, and you can do it. You can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And then the
No, that's
resources
really
that I
good. Thank
shared,
you.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, no, that's good advice. No, you're absolutely right. Thank you.
Absolutely. And, while you're in the process of deciding, take a look at the resources I shared earlier. I think they're in the chat box, the SCORE, www.score.org. They have mentors in every category of business that you want to go into, people with expertise in different things, from legal to marketing to all of those things. That can help you. You can go to the sba.gov and sign up for some of the free workshops that, start educating yourself and start working on that mental fortitude, building that mental fortitude around what you're trying to do as you start thinking about it and building the plan. So just take small steps every day towards it. Awesome. Any other questions? Make sure you unmute your mic before you start speaking, otherwise we won't be able to hear you.
At this time, I just also want to encourage anyone that's interested in next steps to take a screenshot of this slide so you have all the contact information in case you're curious to learn more or have any questions down the line. Feel free to unmute and ask any questions.
Okay, I'm going to share a question and feedback. Before doing this live, I did a small group test of this information, and there were some great questions that came out of that. And I want to share this one because I think it will be helpful to know and to hear, and it's maybe something that someone's thinking about but hasn't asked. And I really liked the question because it's so real and it's so important. One of the questions that came up that I want to share is, the question was, what if your partner isn't on board with you going into business? What if your spouse, your whoever, your partner that you're with is not on board? They don't believe in that goal, that business, or are supportive to you in that journey. What do you do? And my answer, I want to share and encourage someone on this. Like I mentioned earlier, sometimes you have to walk alone. And that does not mean you ignore concerns from your spouse or your support system around you, but it means you need to continue that conversation, but don't stop working, right? So, for example, your spouse says, you want to start a cleaning business, and your spouse says, there are thousands of cleaning companies out there. Why would you want to start a cleaning company? We're going through a pandemic. Why would you want to go into people's houses or companies or corporate businesses and clean during a pandemic? What if you get COVID? What if you bring it home to our family? We have young kids. We have older parents. That's a real concern, right? That's a real tangible concern. How do you navigate through that? If you feel that God has put this on your heart and this is your purpose, and you have done the research and the work, and you can come up with a solid plan, do your research and come back to them with a solid plan to address their concerns. That would be my suggestion. Your concern is, we're going through COVID, safety concern. Your concern is, there are tons of companies out there. What would make mine successful? Here is my plan to be successful. Here is how I will separate myself. These are the things I would offer that is not being offered right now. Here is the need that I see, and here's how I will answer that need in my business, right? So hear the questions, hear the concerns, and address them. Don't sweep them under the rug, because that would just create a larger issue down the road. And like we talked about earlier, we want to go into business because we want to build something that is sustainable and that can grow, right? So we're not putting hobbies into businesses, we're creating real businesses. So just wanted to share that. Did that help anyone? Did that add value to anyone? Give me a heart or a thumbs up. Let me see your reactions. And does anyone need me to expound on that further? Thanks, Brenda. I see your thumbs up. Because that is real for people, right? A lot of us, we're maybe in relationships where we have to take into account that side of things. The other thing I shared in that answer was to encourage that person to ask a question and share their small wins along the way. As you go along and you do your research, if you're passionate about something and they see that you're passionate about it, they will start to pay attention, closer attention, and start breaking down some of those walls a little bit. So as you do your research, share what you find before you bring the whole presentation. Share those small nuggets along the way of what you find. This is did you know this type of equipment exists in the cleaning world? No one is doing this right now. With COVID being a concern, do you see how this can help keep me safe and the team safe so I don't bring this home to you? Whatever that case may be. When I transitioned from corporate America, I had a lot of questions, people from my community and outside of my community asking, how did you do it? And several other questions. And as I'm thinking about my birthday, which is next month, I wanted to do something to give back. And this is my way of doing that, to share my journey, encourage someone else along the way, and help someone else. So that's why we are here and doing this. I also want to encourage everyone to stay in touch with Legacy Rose Company, the host for this event today. On Facebook and IG, our handle is @Legacy Rose Company on all social media platforms.